I am here with Connie Lindeen. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I've tried to convince everyone that it's not painful, and nobody has left here bleeding yet. But I think it's important. I want to hear people's stories, and I think it's important to share them at some point if we can. So I'm just going to go through the list of questions like I have with others, and you can expound on it. I might draw you back into the next question. I might cut you off, but
Okay.
hopefully it will all just kind of flow. So the first question, because I know that you didn't grow up in this church, can you tell me about your religious upbringing?
Well, I was raised in the Lutheran church, German Lutheran, a very small town, and it
What
wasn't Reserve, Montana.
Oh, okay.
It was not. It was not a strict congregation. German Lutheran is usually known as very strict and restrictive.
Okay.
But it wasn't. I mean, we saw women serving in various capacities, not as pastors, but in a small congregation, everybody has to pitch in.
Sure.
And so, but I remember that the pastor was very, very, very conservative. He would tell me to stop asking questions.
Oh, wow.
I would well, in the Lutheran church, you are expected to go to, at least for me, I went to 2 years of confirmation, where you studied the scriptures. You had to memorize the books of the Bible in their order. I remember some of that. I don't remember all of it. But I used to ask him a lot of questions, especially about what happens after we die. That was very fascinating to me.
So he was teaching.
Yes, he was teaching.
confirmation
He was
classes.
teaching the confirmation classes. And anyway, I remember that he kept telling me that I asked too many questions. So, but that didn't deter me, I don't think. But anyway, so that's how I was raised. Later, when I moved to Washington State, when my children were small, I went to the Lutheran church out there also. And I would push the stroller. My husband was in the service, and so he wasn't usually there. But I would push the stroller to the church and was pretty good about being there. But I didn't like how they would shout at us. They would shout at us from the pulpit.
Preachers? Oh, okay.
Yes, and that just seemed not okay to me.
Still
and so,
German Lutheran?
I'm
was
not
it
sure
any-
if that was German Lutheran or not.
Okay.
I don't remember that part of it. But anyway, we were living in a duplex, and next door to us was a woman that used to be part of our church, our Community of Christ, but had left the church and was working for the Methodist Church, but she started visiting the church, and as she did that, she would share it with me. And she knew I wasn't too happy with the Lutheran church that I went to, and so she started inviting me to this small congregation in Port Angeles, Washington.
And it would have been our LDS at that point.
Yes, right.
Okay.
And it was a tiny little group, but a very loving group. And they just loved me into it. And I was baptized when my second child was a year old. My parents were kind of horrified. I mean, I didn't tell them ahead of time. I told them afterwards. And they said to me, well, I don't know why you couldn't have just stayed a Lutheran. And I don't remember how I explained it to them. I think they thought I was being fanatical, because in the Lutheran church, you can't be too. You kind of. I think it's maybe you just.
You have to stay within the bounds.
Yeah, you don't necessarily commit all of your life. You go to a certain level, and that's kind of where you stay. And of course, that was Scandinavian country too, and so of course you don't show emotions. You know, you have to be kind of surface. But anyway, so I started attending there, and then I was baptized in Bremerton, Washington. And I don't think I fully realized what I had committed to. I think, I think I believed in it, but I think a lot of the teachings to me were that this was the one true church. Oh. And I think that was sort of unfortunate. But the people were wonderful. And I would go to prayer service, and I would hear the same testimonies every week. And they would be long and go on and on and on and on. and I remember one of the women that has long since passed away. I don't know what her last name was, but her first name was Gersel. And she always shared her testimony. And I truly believe that her heart, Jesus had her heart. There was no question about it, but she didn't deviate much. So, but that's what I was introduced to. And and the thing that really drew me to the church was that God wasn't abstract, that God was real, and that God cared about everybody, and that we could have that personal relationship with God.
How was that expressed to you?
I witnessed it.
Oh, okay.
I witnessed it in people's lives. I could see that they had personal relationships with God.
Wow.
It wasn't just this abstract God that was somewhere else. It was, when they shared testimonies about what happened in their life, I knew, it was real.
Yeah.
And I longed for that. That yearning propelled me forward.
Okay.
And that's what brought me here. That's what keeps me here.
That's important as well. And some of this you've probably already been doing. My third question of one or two special testimonies of God, your personal God, of God in your life, or special blessings.
I've had a lot of special blessings. A lot of trials. But I think what I've learned is that God has tremendous grace, and God will not abandon us no matter what. I think about the scripture that says, where God says, and if you really search for me, I'll let you find me. And I just love that. It just is a nice little picture. But anyway, I've had many testimonies of God not abandoning me and just always being there walking with me no matter where I am or what I'm doing. And it isn't about whether I'm worthy or not. It's about I'm open to that journey together. Yeah. And I think I remember that when women were, I remember the time before women were allowed to be members of the priesthood. I remember I had an occupation where I did a lot of driving, sometimes 1,000 miles a week. Whoa. Anyway, I remember driving along, singing this song, I want to be like Jesus. And I remember these conversations with God as I was driving. And it was always that I felt God was calling me. That I had no doubt, I had no idea how, but it felt like it was there. And then when the approval of women in the priesthood it became a little more real. But I appreciated the fact that I had that testimony before it was even approved. And then
Before it was even possible.
right. And then Gary McLean, who was pastor here at one time when I was living here, he did tell me that he submitted my name for priesthood call in 1979, I think it was. So that would have been 6 years before it was approved. It was approved in 85.
Was it 85? Okay.
Yeah, and the first ordinations in November of 85, I think. Well, maybe the resolution was actually 84. But anyway, no one could be ordained before late in 85. But he told me that he submitted mine and I think maybe 3 others in the late 70s. And of course, he was doing that to try and push the church to look at that issue. I never knew he did that until many years later. There's just been so many testimonies, so many blessings.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you for a moment because other people, several people that I have talked to done this same interview, have had the same thing. They've said it's been a continual journey. Mm-hmm. God has been there all the time with me. And so every day is almost special because I know there's blessings for me every day. So that's very similar. And I have interviewed Gary McLean, and it was fabulous. I just really appreciated everything. And you're right. He said his whole life it's been one of pushing the church. He felt pushing the church, and he has stuck by the church through thick and thin in his own life too. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I did not know that. He didn't tell me that, but
he did. Yeah, that was a nice testimony for me. I mean, that was nice confirmation. I appreciate that.
Especially after you had the feeling for so long.
Right.
In your own heart too.
Well, and when I was ordained, they kind of messed up the ordination thing. So, because I've had so many marriages, they actually didn't know how to handle that. Could they really ordain the first women and one of them being divorced as often as I had? I think it was 2 divorces at that time. Okay. So anyway, they messed up part of that. But in the long run, it was better because by that time I had moved to the Minneapolis congregation. Okay. And that pastor had said he would never, ever call a woman. Never. He was not going to do that. He was on record as saying that. But I didn't know that. But anyway, and I knew this call was, they hadn't told me. I knew this call was there. Mm-hmm. I knew it. And, but anyway, they presented it, and so they came to the Minneapolis congregation and presented that call with the pastor present to me. And the pastor had to say, you know what? I probably messed up. And later he stood before the congregation and said, you know what? I've been wrong. All this time I've been wrong. And there are several women here that should have had priesthood calls, but because of my stubbornness, it didn't happen. And so that might not have happened had mine happened when it was supposed to happen.
The beginning of it.
And there were people who voted against me, and one family never ever came back.
That probably didn't have anything as much to do with you as it did just the women in general.
He was a friend. He was a friend. But anyway, so we had a lot of experiences about that. But there were some older men in the congregation that were absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. One day I was presiding. And I don't know what I did, but I felt like I had done something to this older gentleman who was very proud, and I maybe just had been thoughtless about something. I don't know what it was. But I went to him and I said, you know, I'm so sorry if I did anything that hurt you, but I didn't mean to. And he said to me, he said, Connie, dearest, don't you know that I love you?
That sounds like words from God.
Yes. And I have thought of his words many times thinking, okay, he was willing to give me that grace.
Yes.
And how am I doing with that? Maybe not so well.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? The times that I know I should be giving grace and I'm, wow.
Yeah. But I had so many of those. When I stood up to give my first sermon, a man in the congregation, again, an older man, mouthed, Connie, I love you. I mean, it's like,
oh my gosh.
God, where did you give me these people? It's like, wow. Some of the women weren't as kind,
Yeah.
but oh my gosh, it was amazing. God must have planted those people there.
You know,
they
God
were
plants a lot of people in all of our ways.
They were awesome models.
And,
awesome models.
Well, I'm going to move on to my next question.
Okay.
I don't mean to be so clinical about it, but I think this is an important question that I've asked everyone. What do you think is important for Community of Christ to do now?
I think we need to be doing what Christ told us to do. The buildings aren't important. We need to get ourselves out there, and we need to help need to help bring healing to the world.
Yes.
We were in a world that is just in terrible turmoil.
Yes.
And there are so many people hurting, so many people in crisis. We need to be doing all that we can to make life better for other people.
Well, as you sit here and talk about those people that gave you so much grace, I find it very difficult to give grace in some of the situations that are happening in this world that I think. So that's what I have to pray a lot about, is trying to give that back and model exactly what you were talking about. So many people have been loved into this church. That's how they've joined it, because the people loved them in. And can we do the same? You know, am I doing the same? So
we need to have action. We need to
that?
stop talking.
What do we do?
We tend to analyze everything to death. And then by that time we don't have the energy to do what we need to be doing.
Yes, 2 years later.
So we need to find out what needs to be done in our communities and get out there and do it. We need to be doing that. We need to, instead of spending so much time on all the other things we do. And I know that it's nice to have the buildings. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have them, but I think that buildings consume too much of our time. And so we need to, there are people all around us that, you know, sometimes don't have shelter, don't have food.
How do we find them?
Or sometimes they have lots of food and shelter, but they just are in a lot of turmoil and pain, and we need to be there for them. So we need to stop being so busy that we don't recognize that. And I realize that takes more training, a different kind of training, but we can't put it off until we're trained. We need to just start. Yeah. We need to be doing, and I know many of us are doing things already, but that needs to be our focus. Is just
somehow
bringing peace to the
other
world.
People to join in that movement too.
We can join other groups. We don't have to do it all ourselves.
That's right. We're even given counsel that direction, to join with the others that are in the forefront. So, okay, my next question is, who is or was most influential in your life, in your church life, and why?
Well, certainly
Maybe there's many.
yeah, there are several. Certainly the woman that lived next door to us who
Yes.
shared. I mean, she was instrumental in our life for a long time. She's since passed quite a while
Did
ago.
she get back into the church
Yes,
then?
yes, she
Wonderful.
rejoined, and then I was baptized maybe 6 months after she rejoined.
Okay.
Yeah, and had a vibrant testimony.
Did she?
Yes, very, very. Yeah, God certainly lived in her. Absolutely. God had captured her. And these two men that I mentioned, they certainly were influential. Actually, Gary McLean was very instrumental. I mean, some people were uncomfortable with him. I loved that he kept challenging us to go beyond where we were. And when he moved, I felt a huge void. That he wasn't here, that he wasn't encouraging and pushing us to see with a different lens. We need to have different lenses. We absolutely need those views from other people so that because our view is just still too narrow most of the time.
That's very
So
true.
other people can help
Very
us.
true. We gotta let others in. I don't mean to bring it to a close, but I'm going to ask you my final question of what do you think is important for people to know about you? What would you like people to know from this interview or from your life or your wisdom?
That's a hard one. I think I would want them to know that I cared. That I cared. And that I was willing to walk with them. And maybe, even though I might not always do what is right and I might be disappointing to them, I still cared. I still wanted to make a difference.
And I don't think that anybody who's willing to walk along with us, whatever our situation happens to be, could ever be a disappointment. So
Yeah.
that's
I don't know,
the
but
case.
I don't spend much time thinking about how people will remember me, I guess.
And I don't mean it necessarily that way.
Yeah.
This is not a memorial. It
Yeah.
is what I don't know. What would be your guiding whatever, maybe?
Yeah. I think, I mean, I did therapy, individual therapy with people for 20 years
Many
or
years.
more. And I think in those settings you find out, some people don't have any support. Some people are afraid to share because they think maybe something's radically wrong with them. And I think I would want to feel like I had made a difference in their life, that through my contact they somehow felt better about themselves.
You were in a profession that would be quite, you would be quite capable of making that difference that they needed. So that's
I would
as
hope
much as
so.
you heard pain and saw pain, were that little able to be that little light for them. So
And sometimes that makes a huge difference to people
yes.
because they just need a little nudge sometimes.
It's like the guys in the congregation that said, Connie, I love you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And it comes as such a shock sometimes to know that other people have those thoughts. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to stop our recording shortly, but thank you so much. I appreciate you being willing to share. It's not, it kind of feels like I'm asking people to undress or something, get raw, get whatever, but hopefully it was definitely a pleasure for me, so thank you.
Oh, good.
For that.
Thank you. It was good for me too. Yes. I appreciate